Hello. Having recently attended a huge convention and running into some accessibility related obstacles, I was inspired to make this video of suggestions on how to possibly improve accessibility based on my observations. This is mostly in reference to very large events, but I hope there is something you might take away from these suggestions even for smaller events. Here are just some ways you can improve accessibility at your events and be more welcoming and inclusive to all of your guests, but particularly your guests with disabilities. Proper signage and staff training. Poor signage, meaning not well placed or the font being too small, etc., can get your guests lost or traveling in the wrong direction. Staff should be trained and well informed on the geography of the event, but particularly be aware of all accessible entrances and exits, elevators, pathways, service animal relief areas, and companion or gender-neutral bathrooms. At one convention I've been to, all bathroom signs were covered up and turned into gender-neutral bathrooms. Consider high bumps of wire covers, general bumps and cracks on the floor when marking inaccessible pathways. In a large space, elevators are often in a lengthy distance apart, and if one is broken, you should attempt to have a sign or a staff member at the halfway point and redirect the guest to the nearest working elevator. For outdoor areas and events, often grass, sand, dirt are not accessible to those using mobility devices, so they will need an accessible route. Event programs and maps should include all accessibility information, as well as being able to provide braille prints and prints with a large font for visual disabilities. And there should be a disability services table at registration. Designated accessible seating. In every panel, in every performance, there should be a designated area reserved for folks with disabilities, visible and invisible, including folks who need interpreters, or if at a standing performance, chairs for those on crutches or with chronic pain, so that way they are able to see the stage instead of being eye level with the butts of the crowd. The setup should be similar to that of a movie theater. A few chairs, with space available in between. If there are lines to enter panels or performances, there should be a separate line for those who need to be seated in those designated areas, and they should be also allowed to go in first and arrange themselves. If your event has rides, you should have a transfer board available so that guests with mobility disabilities may safely enter, as well as ramps all the way up to the ride. I bring this up as most carnival events are completely inaccessible to me as a wheelchair user. Account for distances and time. If the space is large enough to be comparable to that of a theme park, then perhaps consider raising the standard of accessibility to that of a theme park. Perhaps offering a disability pass so that one would allow them to use any elevator, the fastest, clearest path, backways or other, or providing a helpline or shuttle service to assist folks with disabilities with transporting from one end of the event to the other. Consider distances in your scheduling. Panels and workshops often have an allotted time between them, but folks with disabilities might need that entire time to get there. Consider slow pace, like with crutches and wheelchairs, waiting for elevators, trying to navigate the space. Also, standing in line for a Q&A is not accessible for many people with disabilities. If they are seated in a designated area, perhaps asking them if they have a question, giving them the opportunity to ask. Or you could keep it to raised hands, but if you do raised hands, probably best to train the volunteers or whoever is taking the questions to seek out the following question while it is being answered to make proper use of time. Communication access. Something I believe would benefit all audience members is having a stenographer provide live captions onto a projector. ASL interpreters are wonderful, but not all deaf and hard of hearing folks understand sign language. And sometimes, even by hearing people, some dialogue can be missed. If possible, both. I was very fortunate to witness this happen at a recent panel where they had both an ASL interpreter and live captions available. If you are showing a video, that video should have closed captions. Sending information in text format, not image unless image descriptions are being provided as well, through email or app can help to accommodate blind guests as well, so they may use readers to read any necessary information. If it is not financially possible to cover every panel or performance, perhaps offer ASL interpreters and communication access real-time translation, or CARTs, aka the live captioners, at the disability services table at registration. You can organize with guests and see what panels and performances they are planning to attend, and then perhaps even use that opportunity to reserve a seat for them. Train staff to accommodate communication needs. For deaf communication, you can type something onto a phone or write something on paper for them. Other languages, there are apps that are able to translate as well. Safe spaces. Quiet and calm spaces are so important for many reasons. The crowd, the noise, the action can be very overwhelming to the senses. The topics of the panels can sometimes be very heavy, especially the ones that are identity-based. One shouldn't feel like they have to leave the event entirely in order to be safe, in order to have a good time. And a quiet room with comfy places to sit, maybe providing some headsets, water, tea, soothing aromas maybe, can make all the difference. If possible, there should be warnings for guests for any harsh lighting effects, for photosensitivity, or magnetic fields, as well as common PTSD triggers when it comes to content of a panel. Food. Any food being offered should be properly labeled and should have the ingredients available. Menus and the food selection should be considerate of diverse dietary restrictions and allergies. When one cannot understand what is happening within a panel or performance, when one feels that an event is impossible to physically navigate safely and efficiently and thoroughly enjoy their experience as much as anybody else, that space doesn't feel welcoming to them. It's excluding and it's hurtful. These are just my most recent observations, but feel free to add any of yours and any other suggestions on how events can be more welcoming to folks with disabilities. And I will see you all eventually. Bye.